Hello, welcome back to another live chat. My name is Laken and I go live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. We kick it off with a topic of the week, and then I answer any questions that you have about goals, planning, and life. And of course, the garbage truck is here right as I'm kicking this off. So hopefully it's not too loud and noisy in the background, and they will be gone any minute. So let's kick it off with our first question that we always start with. Share in the comments what is one small goal related win that you have from the last week. I mean, it doesn't even have to be goal related. Any win that you have from the last week, and y'all know it doesn't have to be huge. Small progress is still progress. If you are here live, I would love for you to say hi in the chat and share there. And if you are catching the replay, then come share in the comments. And I'm going to give it a second for those to load in. I've got my iced coffee today. I had hot coffee last week, and as nice as it was, especially when it's cold in here, I'm spending so much more time at the beginning of these chatting and telling you things that by the time I actually started sipping it, it was not warm anymore. So probably just going to stick with ice for this, for the live going forward. I can see eyeballs, but I can't see any comments. And I think YouTube has taken its sweet time. Oh, there's one. Met with my knitting group with your toddler. That is amazing that you took her with you. She got out of the house and I got adult time. Decluttered my living room. I love that. Got my February goals done. Diana, that is mine as well, was setting up my February goals and took my own advice. And that's opposite of didn't ignore my own advice. I tell you all the time, try not to add more than one brand new daily item into your goals. Okay, I guess I slightly cheated a little bit. You are going to see this in my goals video that I'm actually filming later today. But I wanted to add 3 new things to my morning routine in February, and I decided to go with just 2. Technically, neither of them are brand new. They are both things that I have done before as part of my morning routine, but I really wanted to add 3. And I was like, stop, you're not adding 3. I added 2, one of which I will do at another time of day if I don't get it done in the morning. So that felt good. I've been approved to move forward with my weight loss surgery, and we'll get a call in the next week or so to schedule. Debbie, congrats. I'm sure that feels really like a weight, no pun intended, lifted off your shoulder. Soldier? Met with a financial advisor this week to set up some stuff. Jamie, I love that. If y'all do not know, my husband is a financial advisor, financial planner. And so I love when y'all do that because it is really, really important. It is. Survived public transport with the kids. Oh my gosh. Got your February goal set, Jennifer. Mine too. Freezing meals, getting ready for your hip replacement. That is amazing. I actually just talked on the vlog I'm filming today about freezer meals and if I want to try and figure that out and dip my toe into that or not. Made the live. Yay, welcome. It's so good to see your name. All right. If you guys keep sending wins, please feel free to go for it. You can hear my little girl in the background, her pterodactyl noises. We are going to move into reading. So in the lives now, I am giving you an update on my reading goals. And the past 2 weeks, they've been kind of chill. And we've got lots to talk about today. So I have finished 4 books in the last week. So the first one I finished was the 5th trimester on audiobook. When I talked about this last week, I was about 75% of the way in, and I had said that it was really geared more towards moms who work corporate jobs and not so much moms who work for themselves. And then of course, the next chapter is literally about working for yourself. So even if you do work for yourself, I still highly recommend this book. If you are somebody, even if you are technically out of this 5th trimester, which the way that the author defines it, it's just the time period when you're going back to work, which in the US with most maternity leaves, that's about after the 4th trimester, which is considered the first 3 months of your baby's life. So that is why she calls it that, which is very cool. It's just kind of it's really about the transition to going back to work after having a baby. Highly recommend even if you're slightly out of this phase, I would still recommend this book. Obviously, if your baby is more than a year, probably not. Or you've been back at work for a while and you feel like you have your groove there, unless you're planning to have another baby, then maybe go ahead and read it, or as a recommendation for future. Now, don't read it quite yet. I wish I'd read it when I was pregnant, but I wouldn't read it if you're not if you're not pregnant yet. I also finished, the other audiobook I finished is Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. So Harry Potter 6, I talked about this in my book video that my goal is to do to get through the last 2 Harry Potters. We did the first 5 in last year. Then I finished 2 books on the trip. So I actually went out of town over the weekend and I wanted to kind of relax on the plane. I originally was going to edit podcast episodes on the plane, and I was like, you know what? I want to treat this time away as like actually rest and rejuvenation. And so I downloaded books to my Kindle and I read 2. I read both The Housemaid and The Housemaid's Secret, which is the sequel. Awesome. Both awesome books. Thriller, if you're into that kind of a book. It's like a thriller. I don't know how to talk about these books without like giving things away, so I won't really talk about it, like the plot. You can go read however they've decided to describe the synopsis, but that's what it is. And it was a page turner and I wanted to keep going. And the second one also good. They each can stand on their own. I was telling a friend about this. They can each stand on their own as their own story, but they were both very good. Okay, I am going to go read, make sure the comments. Amy, do you think the 5th trimester would be relevant for stay-at-home moms? I took the 4th trimester really gentle, but found the transition back to regular life to be really challenging. Amy, probably not. It really is specific about work and about you being away from your baby for significant amounts of time. You could, I don't know that you would need the whole thing. Maybe what you could do is get the book and read the sections that you feel like could apply to you. There is a whole section on like clothing and beauty and like feeling like yourself. So that chapter could apply, but a lot of the chapters are really focused on work and how to navigate balancing work and being a parent. So I don't know that I would prioritize that for you. Okay. Yes, I absolutely loved it. I read it because my sister read it, and then my mom also read them, right? Like we read them 1, 2, 3 right in a row. So it was fun to chat with them. Okay, so I have finished 4 books so far for the year. And so I am going to up my reading goal. Now, before you come at me, because I talked about this on the on the community call last night, that you do not have to increase a goal. And the reason I am increasing my goal is not because I've already finished 4 books. That's not why I'm doing it. In my reading video, I talked about how my goal was 15 books, and I had 15 books that I had picked out. But my goal update includes 5 new books and a whole new category. So it actually has nothing to do with the fact that I finished 2 extra books that weren't on my list, because I'm adding 5 books to my goal and making it 20, but I'm adding 5 specific new books. And that is because first off, if you notice, I didn't have, now I finished, I haven't talked about what I'm currently reading. Part of it is I didn't have a nonfiction audiobook ready to go. I'm still waiting from the library on hold for the other ones that are on my book. And then some of them on my list, and some of them, my nonfiction books, I'm not planning to read the audiobook. But at the same time, there is also a difference between the audiobook of like a book like the 5th trimester, where I'm trying to really digest the information, and I just want something in my ears that I'm listening to while I'm doing the dishes or whatever it is that I'm doing. And biographies really fill that void for me, as long as if I'm all caught up on all of my podcasts, which I have been. So I added 5 biographies to my goal list. And these are the authors. So Tunde from Peloton, Tom Felton from Harry Potter, Matthew McConaughey, I have read his book before, but I didn't listen to it. And I've heard that the audio version is fantastic. And so I thought it would be good to refresh. Britney Spears, obviously. And then Maggie Smith, another Harry Potter. A lot of these were recommended in various books. Actually, I think every single one except for Tunde's, whose book has been on my list for a long time. I think the other 4 I got all from, I know I've talked about the Braun family before. I talked about them a lot during Vlogmas because I love their Vlogmas. They also did a video, the husband and wife, of the books that they read in 2023 and which ones they recommend. And I think they talked about all 4 of the other biographies. So I put them all on hold at the library. So in terms of my overall reading goal status, I have finished 4 books total, but I finished 2 out of my 20 specific books. So that is my current situation. Let's talk about the books that I'm currently reading. I am still reading The Lazy Genius Kitchen, nonfiction, like the physical copy. And I think I mentioned this last week. This one is going to take me longer to get through because I don't have reading nonfiction in physical form as part of my current routine. That is changing for February. So hopefully I'll be able to make a little bit more progress on those. Then in terms of the biography, I'm listening to Tunde's biography that was read by her. I don't know if all of these are read by the author. That's definitely my preference, but the one I'm listening to now is, and loving it so far. And then I've also moved on to the next Harry Potter. So listening to Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I've decided I'm not going to try to read another fiction at home. I read the two I read over like vacation because I was on a plane. But I know we talked about the very first live about me doing another fiction book while also listening to Harry Potter. And I just decided that while I'm at home, it doesn't make sense for me to have two fiction books. So I'm going to wait and move into my next one when I finish Harry Potter. Okay. Would you recommend listening to The Lazy Genius or should I read the physical book? It definitely doesn't matter, Jennifer. I like having that book, that physical book, because I like referencing that. Like I will go specifically be like, okay, the lazy principle of XYZ, I need to go read it. And I don't know, do you mean her original book, The Lazy Genius Way, or the new one, The Lazy Genius Kitchen? Either way, I think it's still, my answer still applies. The Lazy Genius Kitchen, I really don't think I would be able to follow on audiobook. So Green Lights is so good as an audiobook. Yeah, Leah, that's what I had heard from a lot of people. And so even though I've read it and like we have the physical book, it's over there. I don't know why I'm pointing this way. I want to listen to the audiobook. Tom Felton's book is very good and was a great listen in his voice. Okay, I'm excited that it's his voice too. Michelle Obama's biography, Becoming, is good on audio, read by her. Okay, I have read that book. I have it actually. This little stack right here, 1, 2, 3, is Michelle's first book, Michelle's second book, and Barack's book. I have read Becoming. That's the only one of that stack that I have read. And I keep saying I'm going to reread Becoming before I read the second book. So maybe I should listen to it on audio. I'll put that as my like sixth, since that would be a reread. Although I guess Matthew McConaughey's is also a reread for me. But I'll put that as my like sixth one on biography if I get through the 5 that I already have. And I think my mom actually already owns this on Audible. The original one. Okay. So I think listening to it, you can absolutely get the information and you don't need the physical book, but I like to reference it a lot. So I like having a physical book for that purpose, if that helps. I also bought the physical book before I really got into audiobooks. So I don't know if that helps your answer either. Okay. That was a lot about books. That was a lot to update you on. There probably won't be as many updates next week because I won't have finished 4 books and added a whole new category to my book goal. So let's move into our topic of the week, which is big goals. And I am going to share my thoughts. I want to start with a caveat that I am sharing my thoughts. And this actually really, the topic for the week lined up really well in general with something else I'm going to talk about. Which is ironic because I picked this topic weeks and in December, actually. I think I mentioned this before. I know I mentioned it in a vlog during Vlogmas. I actually work with a content coach, a marketing coach who helps me pick content. And we have a quarterly call that we map out all my content for the quarter. And so the topics for the lives for Q1 are all mapped out. And so we had picked this topic back in December to be for this week. And so I would not consider myself an expert on big goals. And when I say big goals, I mean like multi-year goals. Does that mean I haven't achieved multi-year goals? No, because I absolutely have. But I don't necessarily teach on it because I feel like there is so much unknown that if you are constantly focused on like 3, 5, 10, 20-year goals, it can be really easy to lose sight of what's important to you right now. And the other big reason is I would rather encourage you to focus on shorter, like short term. Big, when I say big, I guess in this definition, I mean like long-term goals that take multiple years. So I encourage people to focus more on shorter term goals because then you're able to see the progress faster. And if you're not seeing that progress, it's easy to lose your motivation and your momentum. So Let me just start with that caveat. Okay. So, first things first, you don't have to have them. You do not have to have big goals if you do not want to. You do not have to have goals that are going to take multiple years. Your goals do not have to be huge. You do not have to think about life 3, 5, 10, 20 years down the road. If you want to, awesome. And we're going to talk about some tips on breaking them down and to think about them. But I want to start with you don't have to. And so if you are just setting goals on a shorter time frame that's in front of you, whether that's the next year, the next quarter, or just the next month, 1 month at a time, that is completely and totally fine. You do not have to have these big multi-year goals. Now, that said, hold on. I'll tell you all, my husband's calling me right now. He's not at home. And I'm like, you every week at this time. That said, I know that there are some of you who do have 3, 5, 10-year goals. And so I want to let you know, first off, you can have an idea without a timeline. You can say someday in the future, I want to do X, and you don't have to know if that thing is going to be in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. I don't know why those are the numbers I keep throwing out because I feel like those are the ones people talk about. 3-year goals, 5-year goals, 10-year goals, like 20-year goals. You can know that you want to do this at some point without having a timeline. And that's when I say that, like I have those as well. Like we'd like to buy a house at some point, but that timeline has so many factors that impact it. We don't have a set timeline for that. We would like to have another child. That also doesn't have a timeline right now. Right now, we're just enjoying our lives as a family of 3, right? That's 4 if you include Charlie. So you can have an idea of longer term goals that you want to achieve without knowing the exact date or year or time that you want to achieve that goal. The other piece of that is you then don't have to break the whole thing down. If you say, I want to do something at some point, you don't have to say, okay, step 1, I'm going to do that in 6 years. And then, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and work your way backwards every step until like right now. In fact, I probably would recommend that you don't, because it is likely going to change. I say this about your annual goals, that you don't need to have every step perfectly mapped out for the whole year. So that absolutely then applies to 3, 5, 10, 20-year goals. You do not have to know every single step. So what I would encourage you to do is if you do have a long-term dream or goal that you want to achieve, I would ask yourself, what can I do in the next month, quarter, or year to get myself closer to that big goal? That's the magic question. What can you do in a shorter time frame that you have actually more knowledge on what your life is going to look like that will get you closer to that, right? So back to our example of buying a house. I almost restarted that sentence as if this wasn't live. Because I'm still getting used to filming these types of videos live style, as opposed to like normally these types of videos I would sit down and film and then get them edited. Anyways, so going back to the house example, right? We don't know what that time frame looks like. So what we can do right now in the next month and quarter, which is a goal for us, is to focus on our finances and focus on our savings and know that we're saving that money in a more short-term location so that if the timing gets right that we want to buy a house, we have those funds available, right? That's specific for us. If you're talking about the wanting to start a family, right? What are the things you could do in the next month, quarter, year? Maybe it's related to your job. Maybe it's related to your living situation. Maybe it's also related to finances, right? What are the things that you can do right now to help you prepare for that long-term goal without having to be like, okay, this year I'm going to do this and next year I'm going to do this. Like, you don't need all of those things. You need, what are you going to focus on right now that's going to help you get closer, not to the finish line, but closer to that goal. The other thing I want to talk about related to this goal is that you are always allowed to change your mind. You can change your mind at any time. It's your life. You get to live it. So give yourself permission to change your goals as you grow and change. You are not the same person 1 year later. So you might say, someday I want to write a book. And so in order to start preparing for that this year, I am going to work on journaling so I can get in the habit of writing. And then at the end of the year, you decide, No, I don't actually want to write a book anymore. It doesn't mean that all that time spent journaling was wasted. I'm sure you learned and developed some other skills from that habit or that action step, but you're allowed to change your mind because you change as a person all the time. So, those are my thoughts on big goals, long-term goals. And then I don't actually have a banner for this. I should have made one, but I wasn't. I like completely forgot that I wanted to bring this up. The irony of the timing of this. So, um, y'all know that I love Sarah Cannon from Heart Breathings. That is her YouTube channel. She is an author. Sarah Cannon is like her author YouTube channel, and she's written a ton of books. I don't know the exact number because it's a lot. And then she has her Heart Breathings channel, which is focused more on planning and business and kind of the business side of being an author. She created the HB90 system, which I absolutely swear by. And that is how I break down my work goals and my work projects. Well, she created a course all about long-term goals, and it is available. So I will leave it linked down below. I am an affiliate for HB90, but I don't know that her affiliate stuff transfers, which makes sense. Like I shouldn't be an affiliate for something I haven't actually taken. I will say that I purchased it myself. So I am going to watch it. There is a live component that is this Saturday. She's doing it where like there's a live kickoff call and then there's a bunch of pre-recorded videos in the middle and then a live closing call. Time pending with my daughter's schedule. I'm hoping to be able to join live for those and watch them all on Saturday, but I don't know for sure. And if you're watching this after Saturday the 27th, like you can still get it. But I'm really excited about that because I am excited to really hear what she has to talk about because I know that she has set and achieved a lot of goals that are long-term, multi-year goals. So let me go back and read the comments. I will see you Saturday. I'm hoping to be there, Pamela. I'm hoping that the timing works out. We'll see. If you love 90s punk, Dave Grohl's book Storyteller is such an amazing listen. 5 stars. Ooh, okay, Tina, I'll add that to my list. I need to constantly refocus on the short term because my brain always wants to have it all figured out before I jump in, and that is not realistic. 100%. Whether it's a long-term goal or a short-term goal, you are never going to know the entire thing. In fact, I actually heard John Acuff describe this in a really great way on his most recent podcast episode. So the episode that went up, his goes up on the 22nd. I forget what the title is, but he talks about how did he phrase it? It was so good. I should have written it down, but it was like you can plan effectively 50% of the year. Like your knowledge of what could actually happen in the year is like 50% of like what you can plan to what you can execute. And then it's like on a quarterly basis, it's 60%. On a weekly basis, it's 70%. In a daily basis, it's like 80%. I don't know if I got the percents right, but I've always talked about that as well. Like the concept of like I usually go the other direction where I'm like, you can pretty much know what's going to happen for the next hour, right? You have a pretty good feeling what the rest of the day is going to look like. It's not 100%, but it's pretty high. You have a pretty good idea of the weekly, but still things could pop up monthly. The further out you go, the less you know and the less you're able to plan. And he kind of talked about it in reverse, but the way he describes it was very good. So highly recommend if that's something that you struggle with. I love focusing on what I can do this month. We want to have another child, but obviously the timing of that isn't controllable. So I can't set a firm timeline. Absolutely. That's also, one of those things that you can't set a firm timeline for that. But I even mean the timeline of starting to like try to have another child is something that like we don't have a set timeline on that right now. And you don't have to in order to start taking the action steps to get you in a place to when you are ready to take that next step, you can. Focusing on what I can do this month with what is within your control is helpful because I know I'm prioritizing a goal that matters, even though I can't control the outcome. Absolutely. All right. Any other thoughts or questions on this topic of big goals, long-term goals, anything else on your mind related to the topic of the week? And you can continue to bring it up if you want to. Okay. Then we are going to transition into general Q&A time. Again, you can continue to bring up the topic if you want to talk about this topic specifically. This could be a question about your specific goals or a struggle that you're having. And I promise the answer is going to benefit someone else. Even if you feel like your struggle is really specific to you in your life, I promise that you will still, like, somebody else will still benefit from the answer. Or any other things you want to talk about, any other questions you have. It can be about my goals or something that I've shared. Or if you just want to talk about a topic, you can just put topic in the comment and whatever topic it is that you want to talk about. And as always, if you are watching the replay and you have a question that you want us to talk about on the next live, leave it in the comments and I will include it in next week's live. I forgot to say that last week. Okay, take a deep breath. What is on your mind? What do y'all want to chat about this week? I updated photos behind me. This one originally had a sonogram photo in it, very old. And then I updated this one. Nope, not the one to be my grandparents, that one. That frame wasn't even there. I put the frame there and then I put the picture of me and Sam. I feel like working out and strength training doesn't have an end date, but it is a long-term goal. But focusing on the progress monthly, weekly has been helpful, but difficult to track. Jennifer, do you mean the long-term goal is difficult to track? That's a great topic that I didn't really touch on, is like tracking these long-term goals, because I do feel like some of it is there's a lot of pressure with having the perfect breakdown in order to be able to track it. And so I would rather you let go of the need for this perfect breakdown than have something that you can track to. But at the same time, it's like a double-edged sword, because at the same time, when you're tracking, you can see the progress that you're making and that can really motivate you. So for example, I guess a multi-year goal that I have achieved in the past is paying down debt. I had a decent amount of consumer credit card debt after my first couple years in New York City. New York City is expensive. I was enjoying being an adult and I was living way above my means and had a decent amount of credit card debt that I needed to pay off. And that was obviously going to take multiple years. And I did create a spreadsheet where I could see, based on my current numbers, what my potential end date could be. And then was able to track that progress over time, and seeing that progress inspired me. But it was also sometimes easy to get hung up on that date. And if that date had to get pushed back for whatever reason, because of an unexpected expense or whatever it was, then sometimes that's unmotivating. So it kind of depends on who you are, like how you feel mentally, depending on whether it's worth tracking that long-term progress. I feel like for something like working out and like movement, it's definitely a long-term goal, because I mean, for health purposes, it's beneficial to be moving our bodies forever, basically, with some sort of movement to your bodies, right? There is like a general recommendation. I think it's 3 cardio times a week for 30 minutes each and like 2 strength trainings for 30 minutes. The recommendations I learned from my friend Justina, a video that she made. I'll link it if you're interested. She talked about the recommendations for both like movement and water and sleep and all those things. But for now, I would focus on what is the priority right now and don't worry about tracking the long-term piece of it. Just focus on what is important about this goal right now and track what that is. Okay, Ashley. So book recommendation, Finding Me by Viola Davis on audiobook. Jessica Braun did also recommend this. I tried, and I know she won like a Grammy for this. I did get this book and I could not get into it. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was about it. It just, I don't know. It wasn't working for me. So I may give it another shot at a later date. Maybe I tried it too early in my like audiobook journey. I don't know. Where I was like, it's also really long, I think. I tried to read Spare by Prince Harry. Is it Prince Harry? Why do I never know their names? Yeah, I think so. I also couldn't get into that one. So I also quit that book. But yeah, it's still on my list, like my Goodreads, like want to read list, because I didn't want to like forget about it for forever, but I did try and I could not get into it. Jennifer, I hope I answered your question. I'm not sure if that was what you were asking about. So I feel like there's a delay on comments today, and it is driving me bonkers. YouTube. I don't know if it's YouTube's fault. I don't know if it's the internet's fault. I don't know if it's the rain's fault. It's been raining like for days here, and it's like still coming. The audiobook for Spare is good. That's what I tried. That's what I tried, and I could not get into it. I don't know. That's okay. It is what it is. And there's different books for different people, and I maybe will try those again at some point in the future, but for now, I'm moving on. And I can't deal with the reverse. I don't want to get stuck on a book that like I'm not into, because I don't want to kill my reading momentum. Okay, I'm glad that answer helped you. Focus on what you're doing now and celebrate your anniversary of starting to work out. I love that. Yes. And if you have the data of like the number of workouts that you've done, you could celebrate those kinds of milestones, like working your way upwards, celebrating like, oh, I've done, 25 workouts, I've done 50 workouts, whatever it is, and celebrating that. And celebrate them as milestones, as opposed to saying like, oh, I'm trying to get to 100 workouts, right? And then waiting to celebrate till you get there. Not worrying about that long term and just worrying about what's important, like I said, right in front of you, but then celebrating along the way, because we definitely don't celebrate enough. I made a video on that in November, maybe, like on celebrating your goals. I think it was November. All right. What else is on your mind? What else do you want to chat about? Questions you have, struggles that you're having? I saw somebody post on Instagram that we are 24 days into 2024. How fun is that? That's so fun. So, how are you feeling about it? How are you feeling about being 24 days into 2024? I've learned that the narrator makes all the difference on an audiobook. Oh, absolutely. And I definitely prefer on like a biography when it's read by the author, which is why I thought I would enjoy Spare. I thought I would enjoy Finding Me. But I could not get into them. I feel like I've said that a million times. I'm sorry. But yeah, I do agree. I tried staying up later so my sleep was improved, and it's helped. I got 9 hours the past 2 days instead of my restless 1 or 2 hours. That's a huge win. So you mean staying up later helped you get more sleep? Tell me more about this, like how you discovered that works for you. Oh my gosh, how ironic that the second question after this is also about sleep. My priority for January has been getting enough sleep, but I'm having the hardest time getting to bed on time. Any suggestions for how to troubleshoot this? Amy, yes. And part of it is, because I can totally relate to this now, is when you have a new baby. I know your baby's not quite so new anymore, but you still have a baby. And you, especially as a stay-at-home mom, you are all day. Even if you have a break at some point, you have help from someone at some point, like most of the day, you are in charge of somebody else's well-being. And so at bedtime, when they go to sleep, now is your time that you can finally like do whatever you want and not really have to worry about somebody needing you or waking up from a nap or blah, blah, blah. So it is easy to procrastinate going to bed because you want to keep that time to yourself. And I 1,000,000% relate to that. And I'm also struggling with this now. So what I'm trying to do is set a amount of time. I don't know if your little one is going to bed at a specific time. We're still kind of in like a range. So I have a specific amount of time after she goes to bed. That is how much time I have. And I can fill that however I want, like however I want to fill that time. And some nights are different than others, right? Sometimes I'm filling it with a bath. Sometimes I'm just scrolling Instagram. Sometimes I'm reading a book. Sometimes I'm hanging out with my husband. But I have a certain amount of time. And once that is up, then it is time to go to bed. As opposed to like, so it's not always the same time every night, I guess is what I'm getting at. So when you say getting to bed on time, like I'm not so focused on the time so much as the time after she goes to bed. So that might help you. If you really do want to do it the other way around, as always, start with where you're at. So if you are consistently procrastinating bed and going to bed at, let's say, 11, then the next week your goal is 10:45, and you get to do whatever you want, whatever. And now it's 10:45. Instead of trying to go from, oh, I'm going to bed at 11 to like, I want to go be going to bed at 9. That's awesome, but it's going to be really hard to just jump from 11 to 9. And I would recommend doing it in little increments. Because I've been going to bed early and it makes me wake up throughout the night, but I've found that staying up till 10:30, I sleep longer. Interesting. So I don't know if you ended up, I know you had mentioned in a comment that you were asking for an Aura ring for the holidays. I don't know if you ended up getting it, but that is interesting because for a lot of us, we have and not a lot of us, we all have it's called a chronotype that you fall in, like you have a recommended time that you to be asleep. And I read this in a book. What's the book called? Power of When? Is that what it's called? The actual book itself is not the best book in the world, but the concept is very interesting to me. And it's we all either like, you're either an early person, you're like an average middle of the day person, you're a late person, and then there's a fourth category of people who have insomnia or struggle with sleep. But if you are one of these, like the majority of the population falls into one of these categories. And if you try to operate off of that category, it is harder for you. And so my guess is that you are the one that goes to bed later and sleeps later. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, that is really hard in our society because jobs don't line up with that sleep cycle. But if you can line yourself up with that, you will get better sleep. So I love that you figured that out. I am the early bird one. So I am much better if I go to bed earlier because my body will just wake me up. I like really can't sleep in. Over the weekend, we were at a hotel and I could have slept until whatever time I wanted to sleep to. I did not have to get up with a peanut in the middle of the night. Like I had all this time and I only slept till 7. I was like, Laken, what the heck? Go to sleep. But that's just how my body operates. Yeah, I think I'm a night owl. I think you are too. I think you are too. Now, the book in The Power of When, he actually says like we're not birds, we're mammals. So he describes them as mammals. So the early bird one is a lion. That's somebody who gets up early and goes to bed early, like functions better, getting up early, go to bed early. The middle of the one, I think, is a bear. And then the nighttime one is a wolf. Like if you're more on the nighttime side, so you are, in his words, a wolf. I think if you go to the website, like ignore the book. I think if you go to the website, you can take a quiz and figure out which one you are. But I think it's helpful. So, and as always, when we talk about sleep, I always, and I think we talked about this last week a little bit, I always recommend the book, Why We Sleep. That's a super helpful book. I'm the same way. If I go to bed too early, I wake up in the middle of the night and up for like an hour. My earliest bedtime is 9:30. I love that everyone's figuring that out. I'm an intermediate. I found that out this week, but I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with it. Did you find out that out from your Aura watch or your Aura ring, Lisa? Is that what you're talking about? I think just like mine tells me like I am best when I go to bed. I think it's between 8:45 and 9:45. Like I get my best sleep when I go to bed in that range. So I just try to, I mean, like I said, right now I'm not actually worrying about the time. I'm worrying about the distance after her bedtime, but I'm trying to be within my chronotype. Yeah. Lion, bear, dolphin, and wolf. Okay. Dolphin is those of you who struggle with like, if you have insomnia or you really, really do struggle with sleep. That is not what we're talking about here. I am talking about like, you can sleep. It's just figuring out which time is the best. And like I said, if you are somebody who's a wolf and you really do function better when you go to bed later and you sleep in, unfortunately, depending on your job, that is really tough in our society. Also, I see some of you who've asked other questions, Diana, Liz. We're going to continue this conversation on sleep, and then I will jump back to your questions. I'm an intermediate on the Aura ring, so I need to go to bed between 10 and 11. That's an intermediate? So what's the late one? Oh my goodness. Okay, my PM routine has time for reading, but not time for scrolling, which is what I stay up late doing. I like the idea of giving myself time for those things, but using a timer. Yes. First off, trying to go from something to nothing is always impossible, but Also acknowledging that the answer doesn't have to be nothing. The answer doesn't have to be, I'm not going to scroll Instagram. I talked about this at one point with my morning routine and like checking my phone first thing. Like, I'm sorry, I am probably not going to break that habit because I like to be able to just check in on notifications first thing in the morning. But I have a timer and there's a limit on that. So don't cutting it out altogether may not be the answer. So if you want to include scrolling or YouTube as part of your routine, do it and just set a limit on how much time you're going to spend doing that. I've also wondered if giving myself more breaks during the day would help me feel less desperate for me time at night. I'd get less done, but I'd get more sleep, which is probably more important. Absolutely. I mean, that's totally an option. But to be totally honest, even on days that I feel like I have me time during the day, I still feel that need at night because it's just it's different. Maybe, I don't know. Like, even like, my point is, like, even days where I will, like, take a bath, because if you've been around, y'all, I love baths, okay? That's, like, for sure one of my forms of, like, relaxation and self-care. If I take a bath in the middle of the day, like, during one of her naps, I still want that me time at the end of the day. It's different to me. So, that might work, then totally try. Again, we've talked about this before, goals are trial and error. So, that's an idea, right? Amy, you add that to the idea list for the sleep goal, and you try it at some point and see how it goes. You got it from the How to ADHD book that I'm reading, so I'll have to get some more info on it. Okay, interesting. I talked with someone about sleep and she recommended I be a wolf and actually stay up late and sleep in. But I'm hesitant because that's not how most jobs and life works. It's not. And so you have to decide, you know, if that is if you really do struggle with sleeping not in that time frame, then having a job that doesn't like that allows you to sleep in is important. Or there's adjustments that you would have to make um in order to make that a priority, I guess is my point. I almost bought the Aura ring, but I found the EV ring focus for women's health to be the one I want to buy. It's available on Google Play. I've never heard of that. Just got here. I just got my Aura ring because my sleep schedule is atrocious. Just bought the book Why We Sleep. I love it, Allison. I can't wait to hear about how your Aura ring is helping. I love mine, y'all. I love it. I wish I'd been considering it for a long time, and I wish I had done it years ago. Yeah, during naps, I'm still on mom duty because I know she'll wake up soon, but at night, I know I have a longer stretch of time. Yeah, there's just something about it. It's different. It's different time. So try those things and see how it goes. Moral of the story, sleep is really important. Baby steps, operate if you can within your ideal time frame of sleeping. Okay, I'm going to go back to question. Diana, so there is a task, reading a chapter in a book that I did not do. I don't really have a reason for it. I moved it to this week, but I'm feeling bad about it. How do I balance giving myself grace versus my permission to slack off? So, going back to Sarah from Heart Breathings, on her author channel, her Sarah Cannon channel, she does a weekly live chat on Fridays. And she talked about this exact topic. Was it this one or the one before? Because I want to link it. I'm going to have to figure it out. It was either this past week or the week before. It was one of the most recent ones. And she talked exactly about this because the vibe right now, right out in the world is like, I'm in my soft era. I'm giving myself grace. And don't get me wrong, we are not going to be super hard on ourselves into being the best version of ourselves. You're not going to be able to yell at yourself into success. But at the same time, you have to be a little bit disciplined. Like, you have to be a little bit more what's the word I'm looking for here? Like, you've got to be more disciplined, I guess, committed. I don't know. You've got to decide when you are being too easy on yourself and when you're slacking off, which is exactly what you just said. And this could maybe be its own total topic. So I would tell you to start with what is the why? Like, why did you not do it? And like you said, you don't really have a reason. But what did you do in its place? Like, what did you do instead? And then that might lead you to why you actually did it. And is that a reason that was good? And like, you are going to, you're going to like, not good, I guess is not the word I want there. Was that reason something that is like, if a friend told you that, would you be like, yeah, that was a good reason? Or are you like, that's kind of a cop out reason? You may not say it out loud, but you might think it in your head. And I'm going to give you an example. So I don't actually have working out on any of my goals list this year. I'm just doing it when it feels good. And I have a general plan to follow, but I'm not like holding myself to it. So Monday night, we had not a good a good night. And so I woke up Tuesday and I was exhausted. I like there was not enough caffeine in the world to get me to function yesterday. Yeah, that was yesterday. Wow. Um, and so I didn't work out. I was like, you are not out in a place. And now I do have my aura ring that helps confirm that. But like I knew that, right? I knew that. Um, Whereas today, last night, we had a good night. And so I got a good night's sleep. My aura ring actually still it didn't tell me I'm all that great. Like my readiness score is still not all that fantastic, even though my sleep was good. Um, but today, I was like, that's not like you need to work out. And I kept trying to push it off and push it off. And I was like, if you don't do it before the live, you won't do it. So you like today I pushed myself to do it. Does that make sense? And then I think also it's kicking off that momentum for you, Diana. Like it a whole chapter is a lot. So maybe you do a time instead of worrying about how long it's going to be. I mean, I don't know how long these chapters are, but maybe you do like 5 or 10 minutes and you set a timer and start there. I think that was last week's on Sarah's channel. Okay. She mentioned soft life. Yeah. She was talking about how, like, and there is a time and place for you to be like soft and give yourself grace. And then there's times that you are like, you're committed and you are um what there is a word that I am trying to find that's like where you follow through on the things that you say you're going to do. Okay, not last Friday, but the one before. I think, yeah, that's what I think. I think I may be able to find it. I think it was 2 weeks ago. Okay. If I show up, what is waiting for me will begin to appear in my life. I love that. So, Diana, I hope that was helpful. I don't want to be super tough love on you, but like if you don't have a good reason, then you just need to sit down and do it. And I know it's way easier said than done. Liz, I feel like there's nothing exciting happening this month, goal related, that I'm struggling to find momentum. Doesn't help that I'm procrastinator. Momentum comes from any kind of action. So I would ask yourself, first off, I just realized your photo says Life and Liz, and I love that. I think that's so cute. I would ask yourself, what did you do this month? What did you accomplish? What was the progress that you did make this month? There's your momentum, right? There's the action that you have taken that can help you into that momentum. I do always encourage you to have goals that you are excited about on your list, but not every month is going to be exciting. Like not every month is going to be something that like lights you up. Like in fact, if I look at my goals for January, booking our flights for the first half of the year, that one lit me up. All the other ones on my list, not really. Like they're not really things that I'm like, oh, I'm so excited to do this. But they're on my list and I know that they're going to get me closer to my goal. And so I'm working on checking them off. If you do really feel like though, you need something exciting to help you with that momentum, pick what does that look like for you? Ask yourself, what would excite me? What kind of action step would excite me? And make that your goal instead of making the goals like just the things that you feel like you have to be doing. Discipline is a form of self-love. You have to keep the promises you make to yourself as best as you can. I love that. That's a beautiful way to word that. Lately, my thought process has been, I'm going to skip today, but I'll do it tomorrow when I don't want to do it. I'm too tired. Or other times I just plan that I'm not going to do it and know that. That's totally an option too. You just have to decide, are you, and Jamie, I feel like from being within the community, I know that you will follow through on it. For others, you have to decide like, will you actually do it tomorrow? And if the answer is no, and you're the kind of person who just keeps putting it off, then you need to find a way to do it today, whether that is making it smaller bribing yourself to do it in some way, shape, or form. Don't let yourself put it off any more days. That's why your why is so important. Allison, I'm not sure if that was in reference to the one we were talking about with Diana's step or with Liz's step, but they both apply. Like knowing what that purpose of that action step is for you and if that's important to you. There's also a time when you continue to procrastinate an action step because it's not the right action step for you. And that's okay. Kind of like we were talking about with the books. Sometimes you just have to put it back on the shelf and you can maybe pull it back off to try again later. I feel like there was one more question. Oh, yes, a key. I feel like I'm behind, which isn't realistic because it's only been 24 days, but I've been sick for the last 10 of them, which affects both my financial and health goals, and the lack of progress is hard. So this was the scenario, right, where there is a reason you are behind. First off, you're right. There is no such thing as behind. When we say we're behind, we are comparing ourselves to one of two things. We're either comparing ourselves to somebody else or to an expectation version of ourselves. Y'all know how I feel about comparing yourself to somebody else. Everybody's life is different. Every single one of us has a very different life. Even if at surface level, you're like, oh, well, we both live in the same type of town and we both have the same type of job and we both have similar age kids and we both have, like, even if it looks surface level, like you have the same life as somebody, you don't. You have a very different life. So you cannot compare yourself to anybody else. My thought, a key, is that you are comparing yourself to the expectations that you had of a key 24 days into 2024. And that is not where you're at, but there is a very obvious and understandable reason, and that is that you were sick. And that is something that was not within your control, right? You got sick, and that is what it is. And so you have to focus. You have to first off adjust your expectations, right? The expectations you had of yourself of where you're going to be in the next however many days, shift it slightly. And then, like you said, focus on the progress. And I know you're feeling like, well, the lack of progress is hard. What have you done the other 14 days? And be proud of that. Be proud of the progress that you have made. And if you have to make those steps even smaller to get back into them or to see that progress, you might have to do that as well. Interesting, Liz. I think because I accomplished all my monthly goals in the first 2 weeks, it felt like I didn't have anything else to work on. That was the reminder I needed. I don't need to be going always. No, you absolutely do not. And so my question, do you have daily or weekly goals? Like, so you finished all the monthly, like the one-time things. Did you continue working on some daily or weekly things that helped kind of keep that momentum going? You don't need to be going always. Rest is important. At the same time, I don't want you to lose the momentum. So keep a something small that you're focused on to keep that going. Absolutely, the expectation and the long-term effects on financial goals. So first off, this kind of ties right back into our conversation on long-term things. Right now, it might feel like that 10 days of sickness has a huge long-term impact on your financial goals. And I don't know your situation. Potentially it does. But my guess is you might be thinking about it as a bigger thing than it ultimately will be. But it really, all it comes down to is in your control, out of your control. And man, I know I've said it before, but the Daily Stoic, I forgot how much I loved it. And one of the main premises of Stoicism is focusing on what is within our control and not trying to control what we can't control. So you being sick was not in your control. So the impacts that it has on things, that's not in your control anymore. So you've got to focus on what are the action steps that you can control. I also miss a lot of social happenings, so I feel behind on relationship goals. Again, not behind. It is what it is. That's where you're at. You are not behind in something that is an expectation that you had of yourself. And I know that's all easier said than done. And I know that this is all a big mindset shift. And maybe we should do a whole concept on being behind, like a topic on being behind, because it comes down to expectations that 99% of the time are unrealistic. Like, even if you did something every single day, you probably would not you, okay, you, the general you would still consider yourself behind, even though you're not, right? But you're always going to be comparing it to something, which is just not fair to yourself. So I cannot believe we only have 5 minutes left. Holy moly. If you have any other thoughts or questions on this, let me know. But I also want to ask you the final question that I always wrap this up with, which is, what is one thing that you're going to do this week to make progress on your goals? What is the one action step that you're going to take? Maybe it's getting February all set up. I cannot believe it's February next week. Wow. Maybe it's finishing up a monthly action step from a January step. But what is the thing that you are going to do? While the comments come in, I will share mine. And that is actually scheduling out my February action steps. So I finished setting them up. That was my win, was I set them up. But I filled up every line in my one-time action steps. Spoiler alert. I would not recommend unless you also have a very slow February like I do. And the action steps are really small, right? Some of them are just make an appointment. But I need to put those in my calendar is my one thing for the next week. Excuse me. I'm figuring out why, sorry, that did not click. I'm figuring out why I keep having financial issues. I need to find a therapist. I'm not sure the financial goals can even be met this year. Sometimes our goals are unrealistic. Focus on the steps that you can take. And I'm always a fan of therapy. Still working on the daily and weekly, but they feel mundane. May try and get ahead on February monthly or start a someday goal to keep me going between months. That's also a great option. Small win, finished your AM routine during this live. I love that. And for those of you who are like, she lives in Hawaii. So it is morning where she lives. Finishing your workout challenge, workout every day for 30 minutes a day. Holy moly, that's a lot. I hope that you are so, so proud of that. And I hope that everyone else does not. Please do not compare yourself. That is amazing. Wow. Like, I could never. Like, there are days in the month that I am not physically capable. Going to celebrate my mom's birthday for your fun activity. I love that. Set up your February goals. Get your February monthly laid out so I can see just how busy or not busy next month. Knowing how busy you're going to be before you start thinking about goals. I love that. Going to organize and store the baby clothes she's outgrown so future me doesn't have to dig through bins while pregnant and exhausted. That's smart. And I need to do that at some point as well. Going to shred the pile of paper sitting on your filing cabinet and pull out cash for your envelope savings. Watch the 3 community calls I haven't seen yet. I love that. Also, do not feel like you have to go play catch up if you do not, if it is not a priority for you or you do not have time. You do not have to. Log your expenses in your budget for this month. The goal was only for this month, won't be carrying it forward, but needed a mental, physical challenge while on maternity leave. I love that. Thank you for sharing the details. I appreciate that. If somebody, there are, especially those of you where working out really is a piece of your mental health, routine. I don't know what I'm trying to say there. If you need to work out every day, work out every day. I'm just saying, for those of you who cannot fathom working out every day, don't compare yourself to those people who do it. Setting up your one little word binder. I love it. All right, y'all. These hours absolutely fly by. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I would appreciate you giving this video a thumbs up before you head out and click that subscribe button if you're new here. And I will see all of you next week. I keep meaning to make a little outro. Speaking of Sarah and her live, she has like an intro and an outro, and like it's on my someday list. But right now, this is the outro. Thanks for being here.